of several that we're going to see overnight tonight and on through the day tomorrow. Yeah, look at all that. Wow, it's a mess across Texas into Arkansas and Oklahoma and northern Louisiana getting some icing as we speak. Look at the contrast in temperatures. I mean, you're in 57 in New Orleans, but 14 in Little Rock, 11 in Memphis. So that colder air eventually will work its way this way through the day on Sunday. Our cold air is coming down the pike from the Carolinas, and it's rolling on in here. So the plan is that up here in northeast Georgia, that's going to be the heavier ice accumulations. Start time, well, it's already started up in northeast and northwest Georgia, metro Atlanta probably toward the 11 o'clock midnight hour, south metro area after that, and lesser amounts of some ice accumulation down that way because they won't have as long. But folks up in Toccoa and Cleveland and Dahlonega, northern Hall County, wow, man. And still a destructive ice event taking shape out here to the east and northeast of metro Atlanta, right in the bulk of that wedge through the day tomorrow. So the wind easterly, that's indicative of the wedge right on into tomorrow afternoon. Then the front comes in, and we'll see if that tries to kick out the wedge. A lot of times it doesn't have a whole lot of success, especially there in northeast Georgia, but we do know the wind's really going to be picking up tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, and on into your Monday morning. Boy, just brutal. Talking about 25, 30 miles an hour, and that is what's going to bring down some trees and power lines that are ice coated by that time. I want to show you the big picture here as we get on through tonight. Look how the pink was just hanging around our area in the wedge. Early Sunday morning, we'll still have some light precipitation and more ice accumulation. And then this big line comes through here Sunday. Pretty dynamic system. To the south is going to be pretty warm, and we may kick up a few thunderstorms. So much so, we're talking ice storm in North Georgia, could be talking severe weather down in the south metro area, all the way down into middle Georgia. Possibility of a thunderstorm kicking up some damaging winds. And yeah, there's a low end risk for a quick spin up tornado. How about that? And then on the heels of all that, it gets really, really cold in here. Cold weather advisory for Monday morning, and they'll probably extend that into Tuesday morning as well. All right, we'll talk more about the icing in just a minute.
Hi, David. Thanks. It's certainly all hands on deck for the Fox 5 weather team and the news team this weekend. And speaking of deck.
That's right. Fox 5's Paul Milliken has been camped out on the weather deck for several hours now, Paul. For your sake, I'm glad the temperatures haven't gone down quite as much as when we first came on the air here.
Russ Spencer, how long have you been waiting to say? And speaking of, that was a great segue. Enjoyed it very much. Thank you very much for that tee up. Yeah, I mean, the good news is I just put my umbrella back down. It was drizzling again out here. So it had a light rain a little bit earlier. It was just drizzling right now. It just stopped, which is good. But every surface around me here is wet. And as those temperatures fall, we know what's going to happen. It is going to ice over. So I'll say a warning to all my co-workers right now.
To look off to the west, particularly into parts of Missouri and Arkansas, where you see rain and even some snow in a handful of spots. That's the front moving towards north and central Georgia for tonight. Again, scattered showers tonight. It is going to be all rain. It's going to be a reinforcing shot of some moisture potentially for Sunday. That would bring that wintry weather threat. So sunny skies here through the afternoon. That southwesterly breeze is our friend. Let's talk about the winter weather prospects here, because this is what everybody's asking about. Generally speaking, if you live south of a line, say from Hartwell to Athens, McDonough, over towards Manchester, you have a low-end chance of seeing some brief mixing and maybe even just some straight-up snow. That's going to be early Sunday morning. Accumulation, if anything at all, would only be up to 1/4 of an inch. There's a lot more to talk about this, and we're going to do that coming up here in just a few minutes. Alex?
All right, Alex, thank you. We will check back with you soon. A change coming to Gwinnett County schools has a whole lot of parents upset. Starting with the fall 2026 school year, the district will require all 6-year-olds to begin first grade. This changes the previous policy, which allowed parents to use their discretion on when their children may be developmentally ready to start kindergarten. This policy, known as red shirting, allowed some 6-year-olds to attend kindergarten instead of first grade. One Gwinnett County parent told us the change could negatively impact her daughter.
Kindergarten is super fundamental, and for them to say that it's not important, that it's not required, I mean, that's very, very sad to hear.
This change has also also caught state lawmakers' attention. Representative Scott Hilton plans to introduce legislation that will, in his words, shift the power back to the parents.
Well, I agree with Leader Schumer. I mean, we've seen this trend now from President Trump of trying to do whatever he can to manipulate, change, intimidate people who are involved in our election. It's an attack on democracy. As far as the judge's ruling, I mean, it's, too early or need more evidence and different things like that. But ultimately, I do believe that it's a form of trying to, if it's not suppression, and that's the one word that my good friend B-Rob loves for me to say, hypothetically, I'm being funny, but it actually is definitely an attempt to definitely try to interfere and intimidate a process when it comes to mail-in voting. One of the things that we've learned how to do as Democrats, Russ, that the Republicans were doing for a very long time, not only here in Georgia, but all across the country, is to encourage our voters to do mail-in voting. I'll be honest with you, I'm traveling for this June 16th primary. If I'm not here the weeks of early voting, guess what I'm going to do? I'm probably going to tonight make a decision to try to get an absentee ballot and try to mail it in. Now, a lot of voters depend on mail-in voter because it's safe and it's a way for them to study the candidates and for them to take their times to truly analyze the people who are running. But with this, again, this attempt with Donald Trump, he knows that he's not going to ever run for president again. I think it's actually hurting his own party as well because they depend on these mail-in votes. But it's definitely a distraction. It's unnecessary, and I think it's an attack on democracy.
Brian, as you know, the president has called for nationalizing the elections because he says states run them so poorly. Very famously in the Oval Office back in February, he said that the states are agents of the federal government when it comes to elections, which is not my understanding of the Constitution. What's yours?
Well, I would say that there are many Republicans who would have a different view on that as far as the role of elections. I think many would closely guard the ability for states to maintain control of their elections. Nationalizing it would be a major change in the traditions of the country and a major undertaking. It's just a massive operation of trying to deal with 330 million people. But I am hesitant to listen to any rhetoric when it comes to voter suppression, as Theron was alluding to there. I think Democrats jump to that word way too quick. And I think we need to look at what the judge said, that there's no actual harm being done. And if any harm to voters does happen, the plaintiffs can come back to court and make their case then. For now, what we have is a plan. We have a vision from the Trump administration, and it doesn't appear, and we at the very most just have conflicting information from the Department of Justice. What the attorney said in court was somewhat different than what Attorney General Blanche had said in congressional testimony about where the DOJ is in the process of implementing this. So we need to kind of see how the DOJ is going to move forward. There may not be anything objectionable to it. I began to think as I was digging into this that maybe the federal government is just simply providing some data, providing some tools to help states keep their voter rolls clean and make sure that everybody who is going to vote is legally eligible to go vote. Now, one of the issues raised was maybe that federal data will be out of date. And look, if it is, that is an actual harm. That kind of falls under what the judge is saying. We can come back and revisit it then. But let's wait and see what they have in mind, what they actually implement, and let's hold off on using words like suppression. I think Democrats have overused it to the point where voters tune it out now.
Okay, fair enough. And as you say, Todd Blanche at the DOJ said that they are going to be moving forward on this, but the judge was very clear that if there is harm, the Democratic complainants can come back. But what stuck out to me, one of the things that stuck out to me was that they're planning to use the post office to check voters against a national database. The post office. Really? I mean, the post office has difficulty enough doing its job as opposed to getting involved in national elections, it would seem.
There are a few things that we depend on every single day in this country, except on Sundays, and that is our United States Postal Service. We depend on these women and men to actually do their jobs every day except Sunday, and then also when there's national federal holidays. So to convolute this process and ask a federal authority or agency that we depend on to deliver our mail to do more, to now verify voters. It's just nonsense. But Russ, this is resemblance of what we heard and saw from the president in 2020. One of the reasons why Donald Trump was not reelected is because he encouraged his supporters to not use the United States Postal Service to mail in their ballots. He told them that it was corrupt, that it was dysfunctional, that it could not be trusted. And then we just saw a little over a year ago or so where our senior senator, Jon Ossoff, stepped up and spoke up for all of his constituents in Georgia, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, rural, metro voters, when we were seeing extreme delays from mail. I mean, it's gotten so bad, Russ, where I actually tell my clients, like, guys, if you can ACH me or not send me a check, please send it. And then I don't really send out many checks anymore because it's a delay.
And edginess in a primary, particularly in a crowded field, is what helps you break through. Now, there's a careful balance there. You can't be so edgy that you can't win a general election, or so edgy that you even offend too many Republicans and can't win a primary. But I do think it was a strategy to get into the runoff, and I do think it worked.
Theron, the implication of that ad, it seems to me, is that our Muslim neighbors want jihad and Sharia law.
And that's the unfortunate thing about what Senator Dolezal did. I know him personally. He's a friend. Brian has heard me say before, I've worked with him in the legislature. You know, he's the transportation chair, Russ, and I have a bunch of transportation clients that I work with. And Senator Dolezal and I have actually, play golf together. I mean, until we start talking about politics, we can have a very civil conversation. But, just listen to what B-Rob just said. I mean, this is a man who is all about not just running campaigns, but winning elections. And that ad, which was a extremist sort of divisive ad, is what I think began his sort of rise and being a person who can make the runoff. But Russ, you reported on this. This is also the same senator who literally was showing up at, UPS post office at UPS centers, claiming that people were registered to vote who didn't live at addresses. He also made claims about people voting that were deceased. This is also the same senator and the chairman of a committee that investigated District Attorney Fani Willis. And he got a lot of back and forth with her, which made national media. And so he's going to be very tough to beat in this runoff. And he's also very independently wealthy and can raise the money. Now, what I'm waiting to see is this. And B-Rob hasn't mentioned this, and I cannot believe that he's been so busy over here trying to elect him a governor that he didn't mention that John F. Kennedy, besides him having a wonderful name, who, by the way, B-Rob, I sat next to at the Weekend for Wildlife, had a great conversation with him.
I saw that.
Yeah, you saw it? I'm bipartisan, baby.
Yeah.
But will John F. Kennedy, who was the architect and leader and the person who was like the trailblazer on tort reform, actually have people come to his defense? There is no other time than now for this man who, for many believe, ushered through probably one of the most important pieces of legislation, even though it only passed the State House by one vote. Where is the money going to come from, and are they going to reward him for doing that? And so I think that's maybe a lot of behind the scenes of what's going on. But Dolezal clearly is going as far right as he can without being unattractive in general. But John F. Kennedy has a name. He's a good man. He's very responsive, has done a lot to help a lot of folks. But will the folks in the Republican Party remember that this is the person